Hello, fellow Earthlings. This is Earthling 6455463728, and I'm talking about Joe Rogan's guest, Michael Shermer, a professional skeptic. I just realize Michael Shermer's been on this show before. I've seen another episode with him on. I don't know if Joe is going over, if he is making his bubble as he talks about his what is it? What do they call it? Your feedback bubble or whatever it is. Because there's a lot of people who have been on recently. There was this guy that they called, that he joked about as the Russian John Wick. And then there is Eric Weinstein. He was on before. There was Peter Hotez, I believe. That's why I think I got the Peter Weinstein thing from, maybe. Maybe it's because of Corona, the coronavirus, that he's had so many people that he's had on before. Anyway, Michael Shermer's, he teaches a class. He has a book out. The name of his book is, I think, Give the Devil His Due, where he suggests that you should speak to people that you disagree with. This is about, 45 minutes in that he talks about his book, but I just wanted to go through some other things quickly. So he was talking about the fact that he has a class that he teaches, and he's no longer, of course, teaching in front of the students anymore. He just records his class, and then he, gives them their exams. And I was just thinking, education is such a scam. Why do you need to record a new video? I'm sure right now I'm looking at an MIT class from 2009. Okay, there's no need to have a teacher come back and teach the same class again slightly differently. That's a scam. You have a recording of him, it's good. And that could have been the case since we had VHS tapes. So it's just interesting that it's the same thing with textbooks. They come out with a new version of the textbook that for no good reason. Yes, they'll make up something as to why they need to come out with a version that is only the homework questions are different or something like that. And yeah, you can't use the old textbook anymore. We have to. And that's a scam too. So, that's a modern absurdity. An interesting thing is that he said that a friend of his, gave him some of that chloroquine, whatever that malaria drug is. And he took it for about 2 days, he said. And apparently, after the 2 days of taking it, his wife told him that he stank, that it was some kind of chemically smell or toxic smell that he had, that might have been as a result of taking the thing. And of course, it's either a preventative thing for maybe doctors, so him having it and practicing social distancing seemed to be kind of pointless, but he did take it. So, and he's saying that, you won't die from it if you follow the instructions. He was also mentioning the fact that the doctor, because his doctor friend offered it to him, said, hey, why don't you take this? And he was saying he knew his doctor did surgery on him from when he had a bad biking accident, and he was telling Joe about how he was biking again. And I was just thinking, you had to fuse, I guess, some of your vertebrae, and you're back biking. Why don't you take up running on a conveyor belt thing? I forget the word for it. A treadmill, sorry. I'm like, people just keep doing whatever they were doing, right? Anyway, yeah, he's still biking. Joe and him, they started talking about tribalism, and he was saying that, it really started in earnest with Obama. And, people might have different No, there aren't different reasons. There aren't any different reasons. Joe had on this guy who used to talk to people from the Ku Klux Klan. And obviously, the reason that tribalism started is because of racism. It's not, it's such a wonder that the first black president or black descent president that's where it started from, and you're quibbling, or I don't know words. Really, I mean, Really? And then they go on to say something that I thought was just, it took my breath away how ridiculous it was. Basically, they were saying that people were trying to score points on Trump, and that it's not a time for scoring points on him. We should just try and be behind the president. And Mr. Shermer, who I did like when he was on the last time, and they were talking to this guy named John Hancock, who wrote it wasn't scientific at all. It was about, some Atlantean civilization and aliens. And Mr. Shermer was a skeptic who came to debunk what Hancock was writing about. Anyway, he goes on to say that, remember with 9/11, how even the Democrats and Hillary, they came together and they signed off on the bill to start a war with Iraq? We should do that. That's what we should do. Are you really crazy or what? I mean, one of the worst mistakes that America has ever made. You are using that as an example to suggest the reason why people should get behind the president? Are you insane? I think a lot of times when we're talking, we don't perhaps understand what we're actually saying, the implications, or how it can be taken. And clearly, this dude, this is that time when he did that. One of these long wars, this ongoing war in Afghanistan, that war in Afghanistan that claimed more than 500,000 Iraqi lives, that probably, started ISIS, that, hello, really? People should get behind the president the way that the Democrats and Hillary got behind Bush to start that whole contrived mess. Okay, you kind of crazy guys. Because really, Joe was kind of like, yeah. I'm like, you guys need to just take a time out sometimes. If you just listen to what you said and just take a time out sometimes. Anyway, Mr. Shermer said that he'd read an article that was meant to confirm that corona had come from bats. Unfortunately, I was a little bit disappointed that he said he read the article twice and he didn't really understand it as to the reasoning why it. I mean, you don't have to read the same article, dude. Maybe you read another article on the same topic and see if you can digest that one. I mean, that might be better, but at least he came on to say that. I thought it was interesting. I think they said like 25. I'd heard, maybe it was Peter Hotez or Osterholm, who had said that among mammals, bats account for 25% of the known mammal species. I thought that was so amazing. Wow. And it probably is because, number one, flight gives you so many opportunities to, populate so many different biospheres. You can eat fruit, you can eat flowers, you can eat insects, you can migrate to take advantage of a lot of different ecosystems. So bats apparently are amazing. Unfortunately, they probably also have rabies, but I think that is an amazing fact. One other piece of information, Joe said that he had read that AMC might have to file for bankruptcy. They might not come out of it. And I thought, wow, that is amazing, because AMC is huge. I personally I used to have one of those cards, and I used to use it religiously in order to get my free popcorn and free movies and whatever else. Yeah, I saw so many movies at AMC Theater, so that'd be kind of interesting for them to close down. At any rate, it speaks to the fact that in a time like this, places like AMC drive the virus. Their business model encourages infections. Whereas a company like Netflix, you're able to enjoy whatever you want to enjoy. And yeah, I understand the camaraderie that comes with watching movies with 100 or so other people. But at the same time, if you want to comment on something, somebody wants to shush you. If you don't want to hear what the person in front of you is saying or anything else, it's too loud or you'd like to press pause, you can't do any of those things. If it's too loud, if it's too whatever, there's no convenience to it. So it's just kind of interesting that how times have changed, Can't tell the last time I even went to the movies per se. But that said, well, in that vein, it's funny, Disney came out with 15 million subscribers. And I feel bad for Netflix, but at least they have Tiger King and Stranger Things. So, they're probably not on their way out just yet. It's probably just going to be like a big two between Netflix and Disney. Anyway, Michael Shermer has his book, as I mentioned, Give the Devil His Due. And one of the reasons that he suggests that we should listen and talk to people who disagree with what we believe is that it can help to strengthen our arguments. If it is that, he says, that you cannot convey what the other person is saying, what they mean to say, then you might have a problem with explaining your own position on a particular topic. And there's certainly, definitely downsides to quieting free speech, as him and Joe Rogan would, of course, say is not a good thing. For example, he was talking about there's a Holocaust denier who, as soon as he went to the UK, as soon as they scanned his passport and they realized who he was, bam, he was in jail. And of course, he didn't get the chance to speak. And I think that something like that is unfortunate. But at the same time, as Joe Rogan would have pointed out, the downside of it is that young, impressionable people can be, just like that guy who went and became part of the far right and shot up all those people, black people, in the church. That is a result of free speech that can't be denied. That is one of the effects of free speech. The only way to fight against that would be to make sure that people are informed about the counter-arguments, the strong counter-arguments to many of these conspiracies. But, it would be a never-ending war. It's the same kind of war against disease. You would always have to, as fast as a conspiracy comes up, you'd have to try and quarantine the people who have been infected by that idea, and to make sure that you can reach as many people as possible with a vaccine, the counter-argument, to make sure that they don't fall for whatever bad argument comes about. But anyway, nothing is a guarantee. So anyway, guys, you can wish me lucks. You can like or unlike. You can comment and say why, or you can subscribe and or share. Peace. Thanks.